Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining our webinar today about how you can choose the perfect property for short term rental success. My name is Rashida, and let's get right into it. So, today we're going to cover 4 topics. We're going to go over picking the right property for a return on investment, design and presentation and why it matters, professional management, and partnering with realtors like myself to create win win opportunities. Hey guys, so I had to make the webinar look a little cute. Of course, we're going to talk about what I already said we're going to talk about, but just in case you're getting on a little bit later, again, my name is Rashida and I'm with Easy Air Rentals, and today we're going to talk about choosing the perfect property for short-term rental success. So things that are similar to smart design, finding the right property, professional management with Easy Air Rentals, shameless plug, and a strong realtor partnership with realtors like myself will set you up for a seamless experience so that you can go ahead and become a short-term rental pro. So yeah, let's get right into it. So with Easy Air Rentals, I'm the director of operations. So I oversee all of operations for Easy Air Rentals, and I oversee guest management. I help with the inspectors that are in the field, pretty much anything that's on the back end to ensure things are running smoothly. I'm your girl. I'm also a licensed realtor in the state of Florida and Georgia, and I pride myself in continuing to do any work that I do by upholding my core values of integrity, intention, and intellect. I get this question a lot. Who is Easy Air Rentals? I'm sure if you've been watching our monthly webinar so far, you got a pretty good idea of who we are and what we do. But just in case you're new here, Easy Air Rentals is a full service management company, short term to be specific, that maximizes our owners' income, their revenue, and we handle everything to make it a seamless experience. That goes from guest communication to pricing to maintenance to even staging. We have an in-house stager, which I'll talk more about later, to deliver a high occupancy and a stress-free experience all around. So let's get right into it. Number 1, picking the right property for you. If you are a realtor, pay attention. If you are an investor and a future owner, pay attention to what you should be asking your realtor. This is going to get good. So, when you're searching for the perfect short-term rental property in South Florida, the key is to think like both an investor and a guest. You're not just buying a house, you're buying a guest experience, which is super key. So let's talk about what to look for online and what to budget for each month so you know what you can make and make a confident decision and a profitable decision. So step 1, I would say, is to start with the right search filters. As a realtor, we have access to the MLS that allows us to put in specific parameters to help our investor clients find what they need. If you are an investor who is looking for a rental property, you can either hire a realtor, or if you're just looking online yourself, these are some tools that you can use to kind of look to see what you need to get before you just go ahead and move forward with the purchase. So let's talk about filters. On the MLS, there are certain filters, or pretty much any online platform, that filter properties that already align with short-term rental success, and that's what you need to look for. So you should focus on location. Location. That is, I have to, give that shameless plug. You'll hear that a lot during this webinar. Make sure the location is going to be profitable. You have to think about where people want to go on vacation. I just have to give you that plug. But for location, you want to look at like coastal counties, like from Jupiter down to Miami. Look for properties that are near beaches, very specific, tourist attractions, convention centers, and walkable areas with restaurants and nightlife. As far as zoning and regulations, this is very important and very key, specifically for Miami-Dade County. We're centralized in South Florida, which I'll talk about a little more later. But when you are looking for properties as a realtor or an investor, you need to verify that the property is in a zone where short-term rentals are allowed. So some cities like Miami-Dade have very strict ordinances where they literally have opportunity zones, or they have zones by, like, for example, T zones, T1, T2, T3, and you have to look on the county appraiser's website, on the city's website, and see if you can actually use that as a short-term rental, because let's be honest, we have to be licensed. We're doing everything by the book here. If you want to get a short-term rental and you can't get the license, then you're losing out on an investment that you purchased because now you can't get the license. So just make sure you're looking into that. As far as parameters and what you should get, single family homes or townhomes are pretty much the usual go-to. In certain situations, condos are also appropriate, but the less rules from another governing factor, the better. So the reason why I say single family or townhomes is because these homes offer privacy, they're easier for permitting, and there's a stronger guest demand than there are with condos that have a bunch of HOA rules. I would say an exception to that, just to let you know, is like PGA, for example, a golf community in Palm Beach Gardens. Those are considered condos with an HOA with rules, but they allow short-term rentals. So it's still a very popular spot, and that's where people look at. But for the most part, single families with pools, which I'm going to get into next, is where you want to be. So as far as the specs of the house, the different features that make it popular for future travelers and travelers who are looking online to book in South Florida, you want to look at 3+ bedrooms, 2+ bathrooms. That's kind of like the nice key point that helps, it kind of gives you a wider pool of renters, a wider pool of guests, because you might have somebody who might be on a business vacation or a business trip where they might need 1 or 2 bedrooms, but then you might have a family who wants the 3+ bedrooms with a pool. So I think that's kind of like the sweet spot, because you have business groups, multi-generational travelers. Basically, you can manage your nightly rates to get the most income from that. Like I mentioned earlier, a pool is super key in South Florida. Now, if you're watching this and you're in a different state, a different region, a different area, just apply what I'm saying to what your area is and what's popular in your area, whether it's ski in, ski out, if it's a resort, if it's in the mountains, if it's in the desert. You have to apply it to what works for you. But considering what the area allows and offers, you want to match that in your rental. So since South Florida is so popular with pools and having some type of water around you all the time, then you really want to get a house that has a pool or an outdoor space that might have like a hot tub or at least a really lush backyard, so that you can create that experience and you can command those premium rates. Another thing you want to think about are driveways or assigned parking, because if you have a 3+ bedroom, for example, you want to make sure there's enough parking for all of the guests, whether it's 1 or 2 guests at your property, or you max out at however many guests you can have in that house. It offers smoother stays and nice reviews when it's a seamless experience. And those are the things you have to think about when looking at a property. It's not just whether it looks nice or not. You have to, like I said, be in the mindset of an investor and a guest. Condition and layout, that's super important as well. You want to have open living spaces, modern kitchens, stainless steel appliances, quartz countertops, guest-friendly layouts that photograph well, because we're in an age of social media where you want a house that looks beautiful, where people want to come, they see it, they look at it, and they want to take pictures and videos in it as well, which is, essentially free marketing for you in the long term. So it's going to drive bookings and it's going to help you out. That's kind of pretty much step 1. Step 2 is to analyze the listings like an investor. So we're looking at guest side, but now we're looking at investor side. Once you've narrowed your list, dig into each property like an investor would do. You want to look at price history and days on market. So if you're an investor, you can ask a realtor for this information, or if you do your own research on the county website, you can find it as well. But, benefit of having a realtor is if you look at the information in the MLS, your realtor can give you this. Price history and days on market are very important. Look for properties that have been sitting long enough for negotiation, but not so long that they might have major issues, which all happen from looking at, seller property disclosures, or, getting on the phone and just asking those certain questions. But, we're looking for something nice, but we don't want to overspend, because as a short-term rental owner, making sure that you're getting some type of return is super important. Another important thing is looking at HOA rules. If it's an association, confirm that they allow short-term rentals. If they don't, you're really going to be in a bad place if you purchase a house and you didn't look that up, and then all of a sudden you find out you can't do it. So it's really important to make sure that that's allowed. As far as amenities and design and potential, ask yourself, can I stage this home and stand out online? That's where, we come in and we help. We actually work with an in-house company called Creative Elements by Jen that can transform all of your ordinary property features into something extraordinary. That is something that's luxe. That's something that's modern. Jen knows what to look for that makes renters attracted to your listing. And that's something you want to keep thinking about. And we'll talk more about that later, but that's something you want to think about as well. Comparable rentals. You can pretty much do that whether you have access to the MLS or not. You can use Airbnb, VRBO. You can use AirDNA. We use something called Price Labs, which is something that if you're a property manager for short-term rentals, you have access to, that helps you get historical and future data for rates and pricing and comparables to see what they're performing at, to let you know if it's a good investment or not. So you just want to see how they perform in that neighborhood, what the nightly rate is, what the occupancy is, and what the seasonality is. And by the way, that's something else that I do manage as, director of operations on the back end for everything with short-term rental companies. The last one is looking at the neighborhood environment. Look at Google Street View. I think this is a really underestimated feature that people don't think to look at. It's all nice online in the pictures. Professional photography gives it a certain look and it tells a story. But sometimes just doing a simple Google search on Google Street View or looking at the local news to see what's going on in the area will tell you about noise, construction, or any other environmental factors that could hurt your reviews, which is important. So that's the last one for that step. Step 3 is estimating your monthly carrying cost. When you run your numbers, always include your mortgage and financing costs, obviously, your principal and interest or any other investor loan payments that you might have to use, your property taxes. They're a little higher in South Florida, so build in an accurate tax projection. Your insurance, whether it's in a flood zone, windstorm, and liability insurance are essential. Also, when you do manage short-term rentals, some insurance companies do require, I think most do actually, a short-term rental addendum or something that just lets them know that you are operating as a short-term rental. So they will let you know what you can and cannot do and have you have coverage in a case that there's a situation with a guest, God forbid. You also want to think about utilities, what the electric is going to look like if you have a pool with a pool pump, what the water and sewer is going to look like, hopefully on public and not on septic, what your internet bill is going to be and what your trash bill is going to be. Another thing you want to think about is maintenance in lawn and pool care. Something that we take care of, which I'll talk more about later, is professional management companies usually take care of all of that. Routine upkeep, emergency repairs, the weekly pool cleanings for the guests, and keeping up with the landscaping because it rains a lot in South Florida and the grass grows quickly. Those are things that you want to think about. The last thing is management fees. If you do hire a professional company, then just like Easy Air Rentals, you would have a percentage that you give off of your revenue based on how many bookings you get because those companies help you drive higher occupancy and it protects your time. Supplies and replacements are super important as well, like towels, linens, kitchenware, consumables. A professional management company will take care of those things for you to make sure they're keeping track and costing you as least money as possible to make sure that things are running smoothly. And then marketing and staging costs. As I mentioned, we have a professional stager, and there's going to be some marketing involved when your listing first becomes live to make it profitable. So those are all things that you want to think about when it comes down to that. And then very lastly is model your revenue and return on investment. So just to give you guys a little plug or a little shameless, I like to say shameless plug all throughout this call, but that's what we're going to talk about. But a little tip, a little gem. Take your projected nightly rate and your expected occupancy by season, Florida has 4, to estimate your gross monthly income. So basically you're subtracting all your monthly carrying costs to get your net. This will show you the break-even point and whether the property cash flows as a short-term rental or if you need to go through a different strategy. Before you even buy the house, if you can do this step, then you should be set as far as it goes, and then we can help you, moving on from there. So basically, finding the perfect short-term rental property means combining a great location, just to recap, guest-friendly features, a realistic cost projection, and you do that by running your numbers up front and leveraging a professional management and a realtor and staging so that you turn a simple property search into a predictable, high-performing investment. Let's be smart. Let's work smarter, not harder. That's where teams come in, delegation comes in, and again, if you want to be successful, it takes teamwork to make the dream work. All right. I hope you guys have been finding everything that I've been sharing helpful. So we're just going to move on to the next step. Design and presentation matter. Stay tuned. All right. So when you're selecting a home for short-term rental, don't just look at what's there now on the listing and, the MLS and what's on Zillow. Look at what it could be. Enhancements and upgrades are what transform a good property into a guest favorite, and they often pay themselves they pay for it through a higher nightly rate and better reviews and repeat bookings. So you want to start with guest priorities. Guests book with their eyes first, and then they book with their wallets. When you're evaluating a property, imagine the listing photos. Think about the curb appeal. Think about the outdoor spaces, and think about parking and access. Even though it seems, minuscule, it's super important for guests when they're looking at how their vacation is going to go seamlessly. So you got to think about the easy self-check-in, the clear pathways, the secure entry, the pool, the hot tub, and just how it looks like overall when you first pull up. So ask yourself, could this house be staged to wow guests within the first 5 seconds that they look online? I'll give you a second to marinate on that. After you think about that, you want to start to upgrade and to add value. So some enhancements are really inexpensive, but they can dramatically improve guest appeal and return on investment. Look for properties where you can add or improve certain things. For example, the number one amenity, like I keep saying in South Florida, is a pool. So even if you had a small plunge pool or an outdoor shower or a hot tub, it will add perceived value to something that, they're looking at compared to another listing nearby that doesn't have those things. Extra sleeping capacity, that's another one. If you can convert a den or a bonus room into the house into a third or fourth bedroom, great. We have owners that do that all the time. They start to see more revenue as they increase the sleeping spaces and, additional opportunities. The kitchen and bath updates. You want modern appliances, clean countertops, stylish fixtures. I kind of already mentioned this, but they photograph beautifully and they reduce complaints overall. When someone comes into a vacation rental and they feel like it's luxury, it's nice, it's modern, it's updated, you're way more likely to get less complaints. Another thing that's underrated but super important is lighting. Warm, layered lighting and small bulbs create like an upscale feel. So that's something you want to think about when you're thinking about what type of light bulbs you want to use in the house. Technology. Most of the houses that we manage have smart locks, keypads, keyless entry. There's no need to meet somebody. There's Wi-Fi, of course. You obviously want to have Wi-Fi in this day and age, and streaming-ready TVs. We find that Roku TVs are really popular for short-term rentals because Roku allows you to set an option where it will log out of everything after each guest. It's called guest mode, where they enter their checkout date and then they have access to do whatever they want until their checkout date, and then it will reset the system. So that's another little shameless plug for you guys. The staging potential. You guys want to look at neutral paint colors, open layouts that make it easier to stage. And like I keep saying, we have an in-house stager who can get that and work that magic for you to make it happen. Another thing you want to think about is Instagrammable moments. You got to think about what is pretty. What do people want to post? Where do they want to stay? We're in an age where everything is posted online. So again, you're getting free marketing by making the space beautiful, where people would want to record themselves at the pool, or making a dinner in the kitchen, or sitting and lounging in the living room area. You want to make it perfect for them to make it a comfortable area for them to go ahead and give you free content. So that means, doing a mural or an accent wall. Like in this slide right here, you see we have a black accent wall that gives it like this pop that makes it look so much nicer. A statement piece of furniture or a lighting fixture. In the previous slide, you saw there was a giraffe in the background in the photo. I don't know if you caught that, but if you didn't, rewatch this later to catch it. But that's a popular feature and people look at that and they book. A cozy outdoor lounge or an area with string lights is really popular in South Florida. So like things like these make it like an easy free marketing tool when guests post about their stays. And then don't forget about the behind the scenes. So some of the best enhancements are invisible but make a huge difference in reviews and repeat bookings. So soundproofing or privacy fences for quiet, restful stays, that's like a number one underrated, not known but known type of feature you can offer. When there's a private area around the pool, a fence around the pool so neighbors can't look in, makes them feel more comfortable. If it's soundproof because it's a townhome or a condo, not to say we want loud guests, but it makes it comfortable. Durable flooring, easy to clean surfaces for faster turnovers. That helps your efficiency in your operations and logistics. I'm big on that, so you got to think about that, because the longer that your team takes to flip it or to turn it over for the next guest, the less income you could potentially make. Extra storage closets for supplies and linens. I mean, there's a lot of ways around that. You can buy cabinets with locks, but if you just want to create an overall aesthetic where you don't have to add those specific features, think about if it has a closet where you can store everything. And then really important for Florida is having an upgraded AC system, because it gets really hot down here. And if the AC system you have does not meet the capacity of the home as far as size, you're going to get complaints. And that's what we don't want. We don't want complaints and we don't want headaches. So again, just doing the math before you buy. When you spot a property with enhancement potential, run a set of two numbers. Before upgrades, whatever the current nightly rate could be while you're getting those upgrades done, and then after upgrades and what the projected higher nightly rate in occupancy should be once those enhancements are complete. So those are things you want to look at. As far as impressions and what else you can do to make the house feel more at home or a vacation, or a home away from home for vacation, Like I said, they make the decisions in seconds, but what's really important is you do all this stuff, but you need to get professional photography. I feel like that should go without being said, but I think I just had to say it just so you know. Not only should you stage, but you should do professional photography to make sure that it makes sense. You want to blend style with function. If you don't want to hire a stager, these are some tips you can use to make your house look good. Make it Instagram worthy by doing a blend style with functionality for the house. Choose durable, easy to clean materials. Add seating, add storage. Make sure the lighting is strategic to make sure the spaces look bigger and brighter when you take those photos. Anything that you can do to keep the house consistent will help you. Another shameless plug. If it's consistent all around the design and what it looks like, you might qualify for the Luxe category on Airbnb. That yields higher profits because you can list a house at higher nightly rates because it's a Luxe category that a specific renter pool looks at when they're on Airbnb. So those are things you want to think about as well, pretty much. Just to recap, like I said, we have an in-house stager, shameless plug. You know, that's the theme throughout this entire webinar, Creative Elements by Jen. Here's her website right here on the slide where you can click into it, or you can just write it down and go to the website so you can get some more information. So when you are planning to buy an investment property for short-term rental, you can get a quote from her on what it would take to make that property pop, to make it perfect, to make it great for short-term rental so that it will perform. Another gem and a key that I wanted to share with you guys is if you watch this webinar and you email us, our contact information will be at the end of this webinar. About you watch this webinar and you want to get our free guide, our free homeowner guide on how to successfully do a short-term rental. It will give you all the information you need from getting it to the licensing to the design, the things you need to think about. We have it on hand and ready to send to you, but we're only going to send it to anybody who is watching this webinar and mentions it in the email. Keep that shameless plug going. So what have we talked about? Design, manage, profit. Design and management equals profit. Okay, third, this is my favorite category, professional management with easy air rentals preferably. Shameless plug, you guys can already guess it. So as mentioned previously, if you've been watching our other webinars, you should have an idea of who Easy Air Rentals is and what we do. If you haven't, go check that out on our YouTube channel. But if you are new here, like I always say, just to let you know a little bit more about what we do and where we're at, we're a professional management company for short-term rental vacations. We list single-family homes, townhomes, and condos all throughout South Florida, and this is our market. We have houses all the way up in Martin County, all the way down to Miami-Dade County. But just to give you guys a better idea of what our special sauce and where our area is, we're mainly in Palm Beach County. A lot of our beautiful properties are in Palm Beach County, about 85% of them. We have a couple in Martin, we have a couple in Broward, shameless plug, that's where I live, and in Miami-Dade County. So when you're looking for a management company, you want to look at where they specialize at and what areas they're already in so that you know that they'll be able to be confident to bring your short-term rental into success. Just to give you guys a little more context, when we think about the people in South Florida draws millions of visitors every year with high demand for short-term rentals across coastal counties. As far as sales, Easy Air Rentals, we manage dozens of properties across Martin, Palm Beach County, and Miami-Dade counties, like I just mentioned, producing a strong seasonal and year-round bookings. As far as the market, South Florida offers some of the highest ADR, which means average daily rate, another gem, and occupancy rates in the U.S., especially in Palm Beach County, where the demand for vacation rentals is at an all-time high. As far as the numbers, you see 458K up there. There are approximately 458,000 visitors annually who book stays in South Florida markets. There's about 752,000 plus average revenue generated per year across the management portfolio, and then there's about an 86% average occupancy achieved during peak season in Palm Beach County. Earlier, I mentioned that we have 4 seasons in Palm Beach County, or not Palm Beach County, but in South Florida in general. And just to let you know, those seasons are typically holiday season starting towards the end of the year, high season from January to around April. We have shoulder season, which is from pretty much May through October. And then we have a slower season, September back into holiday season. So just so you know, if you're looking in South Florida, these are the things you should expect. These are the stats. These are the numbers. Numbers don't lie. This is why you want to get into this market. Alrighty, so if you're still with me, we're on our last step, which is probably one of the most important steps, which is partnering with realtors that create win-win situation. Now, I'm a little biased because I am a real estate broker in the state of Florida. However, I think that we have the best tools available to help you really just dive into those numbers and get an accurate assessment of what properties will generate you money versus which ones you should steer clear from. So we're going to talk about that more in the next slide, and then I'll give you our contact information for any further questions. So going back to Easy Air Rentals and what our strategy is when it comes to working with realtors and brands, just to give you guys a quick snapshot of what the goal achieves by doing these two different tiers of collaboration is basically marketing and partnership. So the goal is marketing and partnership to help you push your listings, to help them get revenue, to help them gain revenue, to help you find the right properties. And how we do that is on the marketing side, we focus more on driven marketing, stunning visuals, dynamic pricing, and we keep the properties fully booked with those things in place. We highlight each property's unique selling points across all major platforms. That includes Google Ads, just listing it on Google, Google Vacation Rentals, Airbnb, VRBO, Booking.com, Hoofy, Whimstay. There's a bunch of websites that you can use now to push your listings to get exposure. Because again, earlier I said location, location, location. But the second part of real estate, especially with short-term rentals, is exposure. That's what we have open houses for when you're looking to sell. In this case, how we get your listing across the markets online and offline is to create exposure. So online, we have tools that, like I said, Airbnb, VRBO, SEO landing pages with Google Ads, and targeted social media campaigns on Facebook and Instagram. And then, the old school way always works. Email outreach, newsletters monthly, marketing reports, performance, updates on the channels and what they're implementing. For example, Airbnb is implementing a new host fee starting in October. That's mandatory, that a lot of people don't know about, but it's going to affect your pricing and your bottom line. So things like that, we're staying on top of, and we're communicating and exposing that to anybody who is interested in booking, and for owners who might want to list with us in the future. Offline, we create the buzz, like I mentioned earlier. Professional photography is really important. We have print brochures for specific properties depending on the quality and the market and what's going to make sense. We do local tourism partnerships. We have a partnership with a bike rental company in Palm Beach County that offers a discount when you mention our name, things like that. Create that collaborative partnership that helps push things out more. Word of mouth referrals. When we have wonderful guests who book repeatedly with us, guess what? They bring their cousins, their aunties, their uncles, their grandparents, their friends, their colleagues. They tell them about us, and then they end up booking with us. It just creates a traditional real estate strategy that helps with vacation rentals that make it make sense and get you profit and get you bookings. On the other side of things, we have partnership. So we work hands-on with realtors. If you're a realtor and you're watching this, please contact us so we can talk more about it, which I'll get into in the next slide. But we also work with investors before they even take on a property to help identify those high return on investment properties. So pretty much everything that I've mentioned before about what you need to look for when you're searching for a property, if you want to make it easier for yourself and you want to get an idea of how much you can make without doing all that legwork yourself, reach out to us. We have systems and we have platforms in place that use historical data, that use market data, that use future data to help us get an accurate insight on how much your property can yield in a year on a short-term rental platform. So that's basically what the income projections are, which is what we do. The income projections, we have the staging guidance on what you can do to make the house pop. And we have a whole plan in place per property. Each property is different to make the deal easier and to make it more profitable for you as an investor and for an agent who might have an investor client. So we do that with brands, co-branding with those realtors, with those local companies, with local social media brands to help create that awareness and that exposure. And then we have affiliates, which we want to make you. Give us a call. realtors so that we can affiliate with you to help you sell your client better on already having a go-to contact for property management once your client finds an investment property that they want to put on the short-term rental website. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you guys found this information helpful. I did forget to mention that realtors, if you are watching this, that we do offer a broker commission or a finder's fee for any investors that you bring to us, who would like to list their property with Easy Air Rentals. So definitely contact us to get some more information on that. We can send you this slide deck. We can send you our brochures, our information, and everything you need to know to help your investor client successfully close and manage and profit off of their short-term rental investment. But other than that, if you have any questions at all, feel free to email us at hello@easyairrentals.com, or you can visit our website and submit a form of contact or submit a contact form for us to reach back out to you and get you some more information. Thank you so much for listening to this webinar today. I really look forward to the questions that you guys may have and hopefully working with you in the future. So I hope you have a wonderful day. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.